And you are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the December 20th work session of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call? Kathy?
I can't hear Carol.
Yeah, Carol,
Present.
can you just press the mic? Thanks.
Present.
Present.
Here.
Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's meeting will begin with a public portion where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. We ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. That will be followed by several work agenda items. We'll have Jeannie Carosa presenting bids, East Hampton Town Airport capital projects, Senior Center Program and Design Workshop, Living Shoreline Project Grant, cybersecurity enhancements, and the 2022 beaches update. That will be followed by liaison reports and resolutions. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board at this time in public comment? Jason, do we have any callers on the line?
Yes, we do. And unmuting the first caller. Wait. Hello, caller. Zero. Oh, give me a second. And I'm just going to. Hello, caller 8764. You are on the air.
Good morning, Town Board and Town Council. This is Dave Buddha. I have two things I'd like to address. One is to thank you for engaging counsel who has now commenced litigation with regard to Beach Plum Park subdivision in Napeague and Amagansett. That's a litigation that is an outgrowth of work that was done more than 10 years ago by various people, including Zach Cohn, myself, David Lease, and Rick Whalen to resolve, to stop the determination of the nature park status for 3 reserve areas in the subdivision. So I will be watching that litigation carefully, and hopefully it will be swift and successful, and that will maybe be a new trend for East Hampton Town in litigation, swift and successful. The second topic is I'd like to just ask you to explain either now or later when you consider Resolution 1510, which is a bond for $865,000 for computer hardware and software. I'm sure that this bond to support a capital expenditure was discussed when you were preparing your capital expenditure plan, but I don't really remember the details. I'm just wondering if you could explain in more detail, because the bond resolution gives no detail, what is the nature of the $865,000 of computer software and hardware upgrades that the town is going to fund with this bond? Is it anything specific? Is it system-wide? Does it relate to the cybersecurity enhancements that you're going to be discussing today? I'm just curious. Thank you. And otherwise, have David, a wonderful holiday, and best wishes for a new year.
Thank you very much. And yes, you are correct. It's actually the last suggestion, which is that we were looking at our cybersecurity, particularly reviewing it in lieu of what's happened in Suffolk County and other attempted attacks at other municipalities. And we've decided to fast track our capital plan for 2023 cybersecurity improvements. And we'll be having a discussion about that today. We'll have Heath Liebman presenting the case for why we should be moving up this capital plan for that specific purpose.
Okay, thank you very much. That explains it.
Thank you for calling.
Okay,
you're welcome.
Happy holiday and a happy new year. Do we
Thank
have any
you very
other
much.
callers?
Yes,
any other callers online?
I'm unmuting the next caller right now. Hello, caller ending 0775. You're on the air.
Hi, my name's Jamie LaDuke. I work for CCOM. I'm just calling in to learn and listen to what you guys are up to today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
That
you.
was the only callers on the line.
Okay. In that case, we can move forward with our topics. As I said earlier, the first topic is bids. Jeannie Croze is here from our purchasing department.
Good morning. Can't believe it's the last meeting of the year. Crazy. Anyway, I just have a bid, and then also inviting Heath Lieben in to present an RFP that we did. The first bid to accept is for the communication building roof. The apparent low bidder for that is Ronald Webb Builder, and the total amount is $74,994. And then we also did an RFP for enterprise permitting and licensing software. As I said, Heath will be joining us by Zoom to make that recommendation from the committee.
Do we have Heath Lieben on the line?
1 second, I will let him into the room right now. Okay, Heath, you are up and running.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Heath.
How are you? I'm sure Jeannie had informed you that we have met as a committee in regards to the enterprise licensing and software migration we're going to do to bring a web-based portal for the public to have more functionality for the public to initiate and be a part of the entire process for our workflows in regards to planning, in building department, in the fire marshals. So we are at a point where we interviewed the 5 responding bid organizations. We are looking for an integrated solution combining our public access portal and our internal staff, so we have a consistent workflow. We want to provide the field staff their ability to perform real-time entries and have trigger notifications on the on-site location, the ability for the public to provide documentation, provide payment of any fees, anywhere where anyone has internet access. The solution is going to be both a front end and a back end system, so the public has that full feature to open applications, open process forms, payments, without the need to come into the town offices. When an application opens when an applicant opens an application, the internal staff will be notified, and we can have a consistent communication of the status at all times. So the public will be aware as soon as the application's opened. They'll get a confirmation email. They'll be notified as soon as someone's assigned to the application. They'll be notified when any issues may arise to the application, because a constant email flow will come back and forth to that applicant. The system will also trigger for anything the applicant might need. So if the applicant may be missing documentation, and this way they can get notification of the documentation they need so they can keep on the timelines. So if something has to go to a board meeting, it can stay in progress and won't get pulled because of missing documentation. So we're looking at, from the 5 proposals we received, our major reasons we were choosing OpenGov over all of the other vendors is simply because OpenGov does offer their own credit card processing gateway. They have full integration with Esri, which is our GIS software. They offer unlimited user licenses, which is going to save us a considerable amount of money initially and, of course, over the long term, because licensing is usually the mitigating factors. It is extremely user-friendly. From the demonstrations we have, the public will be encouraged to use the interface due to the simplicity of it. And I say that because we brought in enough sampling of users, that would be office users within the town, to actually evaluate the product. And they were greatly impressed at the simplicity of it. The other factors we had was the recommendations from both the town of Hempstead and the town of Huntington, which are also using this product. And we spoke within their departments, the building department, not just IT. So from an IT standpoint, technically they check all the boxes. Functionally is the key factor for us, in the fact that I want our users, our employees, to be able to feel comfortable using the new product and being able to have it work for them to the best of their abilities, so everything can be as seamless and quickly adapted as possible. With that, I would say the initial costs, we were looking at a lower initial cost for the first year. Years 1 through 5 will have a cost of $587,000. The initial cost of $87,000, and an annual subscription fee of about $61,000, which is far lower than all of the other vendors. So the recommendation for our committee was for OpenGov. That's where we stand.
Thank you, Heath. Any questions for Heath or Jeannie at this point?
I do not.
Jeannie, do you have any other bids to present?
That's it for today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, is it possible that Heath is here, that he had requested to do his cybersecurity enhancements now while he was on?
If not, I can leave Zoom running and just give me a notification.
That's fine. That's out of order, but we certainly can accommodate that since you're already on the line, Heath. You want to just run through the cybersecurity?
Awesome. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. The cybersecurity enhancements. This was a direct inquiry from the board, and the board expressed their desire to take a more positive stance on being more proactive with cybersecurity in lieu of the recent events that have, riddled a couple of towns out on Long Island. The two major recommendations for bonding, which I've requested for capital, was the implementation of a managed detection, managed risk, managed security awareness development. There's an organization which handles all of that, which brings in years of expertise from the vendor, a focused security posture, which does multiple things for us. I'll get into that. That's one of our capital projects that was recommended. And of course, the implementation of a hybrid backup solution, hybrid being it's both on-site and cloud backup. The reason we added both the managed detection and response as well as the cloud backup is it does give us a stronger disaster recovery plan. It allows us for a quicker restore of any technical data or departmental data. It'll help minimize our downtime, reduces the overall burden on the IT staff. We can also leverage the expertise of our vendor and take advantage of the resources the solution provider will have in regards to their expertise and familiarity with protecting government sector resources. And as well, it also decreases our cybersecurity insurance coverage. The major points, again, will be the managed detection and response. This is what is abbreviated as MDR, managed detection and response. It's a cybersecurity service that provides an organization with a team of experts, and they'll monitor our endpoints, our network, our cloud environments, and be able to respond to these cyber events they detect 24 hours, 7 days a week. It helps strengthen our disaster recovery plan. We are able to move our data, in addition to having a full backup on site. It allows us to move it off site. So in the event of any catastrophic disaster that might occur, physical location is destroyed, fire, theft. By using cloud data, our data is transferred and well managed, encrypted in a cloud environment. So we have a degree of resiliency that we wouldn't normally have by just leaving the data backed up. Even though it is in multiple locations on site, it provides an increased protection for us. It gives us the ability to quickly restore data. Obviously, in that event of any catastrophic event, we would be able to still access that data and not have to wait until the site is cleared before we can access any of the physical machines that we need to access. Minimizes downtime. So with cloud solutions, when they run smoothly, it is incredibly efficient. We're able to bring back our restores much faster. And again, reducing the time it takes to get us back to an operating state of normalcy. It'll reduce, again, the burden on IT, which, as I can say, using our vendors to provide the expertise they're going to provide, this will take a lot of stress off of the internal IT staff, which is still focusing on the immediate restoration and restored services for the town and the town employees as well as the public. And of course, we leverage those built-in resources and their expertise. So when we do select a cloud solution provider or a managed detection and response provider, we're taking their years of expertise and bringing that in and relying on their skill sets to help enhance what we already are providing now. And that is the capital request we are going forward with. I'm very optimistic, and these solutions will definitely give us an advantage in our cybersecurity posture at this time.
Thank you, Heath. Any questions for Heath?
No, I just think it's very appropriate for the town to move forward. This in the light of it might be a little out of sequence in a way as far as capital budget, but it's definitely not an out of sequence based on reality of life right now that we have. And knowing that our world is becoming so digital right now, I think this is appropriate. And I thank Heath for informing the board. And I also thank the supervisor and the council member Rogers to help bring this forward and get this effectuated.
Yeah, I think, as David said, it's especially important at this time to be certain that we're doing the best we can in terms of protecting the town's internet technology and that sort of database approach that we have to modern life. You know, we have seen the impacts of the cyber attacks on Suffolk County, and a lot of that's really spilled over into other municipalities. It's delayed payments that the town is due. It's delayed closings, recording of deeds, so many other aspects of everyday life that has trickled back down to us as well. And so, you know, we've taken a hard look and met with Heath and the board members, and research has been done into ways that we can strengthen our protections. And we felt very strongly that we should immediately try to fund these efforts now rather than wait for the completion of our regular capital plan, because time is of the essence. So thank you for that, Heath. And we look forward to having that implemented in the new year. And that brings us up to our next topic, which is East Hampton Airport capital project. Since we're talking about capital expenditures, we have our airport manager, Jim Brundage, here, who's going to present a PowerPoint on the various projects that are underway or envisioned for the next period of time here. So Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. So as Peter mentioned, he'd like me to update the town and the town board on capital projects that we're undergoing right now. So here's an overview slide and the 5 projects we've been involved in.
Oh, could you hit share for? Could you share your presentation for me? Share your screen, and we'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Just have to figure out how to do that.
Bottom, there should be a button. It's a green arrow, and that of Zoom, and then you should have that ready to go. Oh, all right. Help is on the way.
Well, I'm on this screen here.
Right. Try now. There's in the Zoom, there's a share.
And to the rescue.
Yes, she must have been doing very well then.
Ann's coming.
Oh, Ann will rescue us. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. No.
Oh, I see.
Here you go.
Okay.
Is it up, Jason?
It's not
No.
up yet. No, it has to just.
Should be. Hold on. Let me end the share and redo it.
All right. Thank you. Now
there.
it's up.
We
Oh, we
got
have
it.
it. Thank you, Ann.
Okay, so this first slide is an overview of the 5 projects that we have underway. Airport parking lot rehab and upgrade for ADA compliance. Runway 28 tree obstruction mitigation, runway 10 precision approach lighting. Airfield pavement markings and rotating beacon. We need to replace the failed beacon. So I'll go over each one of these individually. Airport parking lot rehab. So asphalt in the airport parking lot and in front of the terminal building had completely failed over the years. Serious cracks, hazard for pedestrians. There were a lot of non-ADA compliant sections because of the slope up to the parking lot and back down. There were no steps. There were steps, no ramps, no handrails. The upgrade will involve more parking spaces, better flow of traffic. It'll make it ADA compliant. And we're also, while we got it dug up, installing wiring for electric car charging stations. The engineering cost was $20,550. Construction is $142,344. It was funded during the year and is in process now. Should be finished actually by the end of this week. Next one is the runway 28 tree obstruction mitigation. Tree heights on the approach end of runway 28 are penetrating the 3-degree glide path, providing a hazard to navigation, particularly at night and during low visibility. Trees were allowed to grow in the clear zone behind the deer fence. I'll show you a picture of that. So this is the area on the approach to 28 that's highlighted in red. It's about a 2-acre area. That used to be part of the clear zone, but when a deer fence was installed, that no longer was mowed or cleared, so that those trees were allowed to grow over the past 40 years, and now they've become a hazard to navigation. So the mitigation is the trees have been attacked by southern beetle. I'll show you a picture of that. This was taken last summer. The whole front line here is dead. And if you go up there now, all of this is dead. Everything behind it is dead as well. So the mitigation was to just drop the trees. And instead of doing engineering about topping and you know, the cost of all that. So the engineering costs were zero. Construction costs were put out to bid and came in at $106,000. It's been funded and is currently underway. The next project.
Just to correct that, it wasn't put out to bid. It came off of a bid of a county contract.
That's right. Yep. Sorry about that. Runway 10 precision approach path lighting. The old precision approach path lights were installed over 30 years ago. They have specially designed incandescent bulbs that are very expensive and needed to be replaced often. So a lot of maintenance. The old precision approach lights were installed with direct burial cable. So the cable shorted out under the ground and needed to be replaced. That's going to be the major part of the cost. It's nearly a half a mile from the terminal building out to the end of the runway where the approach lights are. And we're going to be doing it in conduits, so it's not direct bury. The new PAPIs will be LED, much less expensive to operate and maintain. In fact, maintenance on them will be warranted for a while. Shouldn't really require much maintenance, if any. Engineering costs for $74,350. That's complete. We just need to go out to bid now, and that's where we need to. I need to work with the town board and Becky about funding for the construction costs, which are estimated to be about $250,000. And as I say, most of that, or a majority of that, is the cabling all the way out to the end of the airport. Okay, so next slide. Oh, this is a slide that gives you an illustration of what those precision approach lights look like. We have two of them on each end of the main runway, runway 10 and runway 28. The one on 28 is fairly new. They're fairly new, so they're working just fine. But the one on 10 is the one that failed. So when a pilot is on glide slope, they see a white light over a red light. When they're below glide slope, they see a red light over a red light. And if they're above glide slope, they see white over white. So it's good guidance for coming in at night or in bad weather. For those of you who saw the movie Maverick, what was it? Top Gun Maverick. And you hear the pilot say, "I have the ball." That's what they're talking about. You see his white over red, and he knows he's on the right glide path to land. Go ahead.
I got a couple other quotes if you want me to give too. Love that movie. That was great.
Airfield pavement markings. Runway markings are mandated by FAA rules. Markings are universally known by pilots and provide them with guidance for landing, takeoff, taxiing around the airport. Last complete runway taxiway markings and upgrade was over 12 years ago. So they've faded quite a bit. The FAA has revised, and also the FAA has revised some standard markings with reflective paint, so they need to be redone. I've put this on hold because the engineering costs were something like $58,000 to design the whole airport, and the estimated cost was up around $80,000 but that involved completely stripping away all the paint that's on the runways now and taxiways and putting all new paint down. I asked the engineer, I said, well, can't I just paint over what's there? And he said, absolutely, but it won't last long. I said, well, how long will it last? And he says, maybe 4 or 5 years. I said, that's good enough, because the last time I did this, it cost $12,000. So it's probably maybe double that now, because that was 12 years ago, but that's still way less than engineering and stripping the paint. So for the time being, that's on hold until I get more data and more information from BOCES contracts, state contracts, and the highway department.
Great.
This is an example of what some of the markings look like. And these are all important markings that are meaningful to pilots. You can imagine coming in low visibility or at night. These stripes are, all the paint is reflective. So the landing lights light it up. And so the pilot knows where the threshold is. He knows that he's landing on runway, in this case 29, but we have 28. Each one of these sections is 500 feet apart. So the pilot knows how much runway is remaining for braking or for takeoff. So they're meaningful to pilots. This is an example of taxiway markings that are all meaningful to pilots. They all have a special meaning. Rotating beacon, our old rotating beacon, once again, has been there for over 30 years. It's been expensive to maintain, unable to find replacement parts. Barry Bennett and his team have been really good over the last few years to dig up parts and replace it, but that involves them getting in the bucket truck and getting up on the top of the beacon and working up there, which they don't particularly care for, but they've been very good about it. Bulbs must be replaced often and are expensive, sort of like the PAPI bulbs. The new beacon will be LED, again, is warranted, so it shouldn't require any maintenance for quite a while. There was no engineering involved. New beacon costs $14,635,000, and I had funding for that in my budget, so that's been funded. Parts are here and have been delivered, and they're to be installed by the electrician this week, weather permitting. This is what the old beacon looked like, and this is the new beacon. It's a pretty good size piece of equipment. It weighs about 150 pounds. And the new beacon being LED, less light pollution. LED light beam provides less light wash in the sky and on the ground. Well, those are the projects that are ongoing.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Negative Ghost Rider.
Anyone?
Okay,
No.
another Top Gun reference.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you, Jim. We'll move on now to presentation of the new Senior Center Program and Design Workshop. And we have R2 Architecture on the line. If you could please bring them in, Matt.
Yeah, I'm working on it right now, and give me a second.
Yeah, we've got Heath's.
Give me a second. I'll take care of the presentation. I'll stop that right now. Stop participant sharing. And R2 Architecture, would it be, I have Carol Ross Barney, I have Ronette Riley, Jeremy Samuelson, and Yumi Marwaki.
Yes,
Please let them all in.
Admitting all. And Leah Reef, just
Nina, yes, please.
Lena.
So welcome to R2 to bring us up to date and walk us through the design elements that you've been working on for our new senior center. We're pleased to have you here. We also have our planning director, Jeremy Samuelson, on the call as well.
All right, thank you so much. We've presented in the past our process, our engagement, our planning and program development, and now we've put together 4 concepts where the program is delineated and where the building could be and might be placed on the site. So I think I'll turn it over to Carol Ross Barney, who will complete out the explanation of each of our thought processes.
Good morning. Hey, Lena, do you want me to share here or do you want to put it up?
I'm putting it up right now, Carol.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everybody. We're really pleased to be here this morning at this point in the design. It's really exciting. We've had a great time interacting with everybody, actually. There've been candid conversations, there's been formal meetings, and the first thing we want to do is summarize the program so you can see what we learned. And my associate Lena Rafe is going to do that.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so one of the things we wanted to do for this meeting was highlight the goals. So one of them is to analyze the proposed building program while reviewing its creation. So sort of where we are now and how we got to that point. And then the second was to report the evaluation data of each concept scheme in order to help, the board formulate a decision to move forward with.
Elena, your screen's not moving forward.
I'm sorry, what, Carol?
Your screen's not moving forward.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Can you see the program origin slide?
No, we can't. We're not there.
See the cover slide.
Sharing. It's not in full screen.
Here, let me try it, okay? Let's see if I work better than you do. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm also going to keep my video off because I think I'm having some issues with that as well. Okay, so just like I said, kind of first off, the building program, reviewing its creation, how we got to the point we are now, and then looking at each concept scheme to help kind of form a decision. And so earlier this spring and summer, the design teams went to East Hampton and they gathered data from the community via in-person sessions, surveys, conversations, and there were really 8 major themes that came up on that. And so you can see that on the theme section, connection with nature outdoors, activities that build on what is already in the existing center, activity spaces that are dedicated to the arts were really important to people, spaces that really center on wellness were important, social interactions and how those are kind of centered around the dining room was also another important aspect. But there was also things like an environmentally conscious facility and really a huge appreciation of the staff. And so within that, there was also more specific goals and priorities, anything from open and airy, a home away from home, having ample parking or a coffee bar, and different places to eat. And one thing we really did want to mention with this is, these weren't just themes or goals that we came up with as the design team. These were things that we actually heard from, the residents of the community, the users of the senior center now, potential new users of the new senior center, board members and staff that are working in the senior center. And so that's how we kind of came up with this program matrix. You guys have seen this before. I think this is what we also presented at the last board meeting. But Carol, do you mind going to the next slide real quick? You can see here, looking at this matrix kind of side by side with those themes that I discussed earlier, you can see 2 main things happening here, right? So really it's an increase in the common use spaces, and that's to kind of hit on those themes of spaces dedicated to the arts, spaces that allow for more wellness program and more social interactions. And then also an increase in the commercial kitchen aspect of the program. And that kind of goes along with, providing dinners and having kind of, all of the necessary programmatic elements that build upon a commercial kitchen. And so what we've done for this presentation is kind of consolidate some of those graphics we showed last time, right? So here you can see on just a one-sheet page that the existing program on the left that's a little bit grayed out, and the proposed program on the right that's a little bit more in full color. And here you can really see, there's an added wellness room, there's added rooms for media, arts and crafts. The staff offices that are currently in a trailer, they now have dedicated office space within the new proposed building. Also, you can see the commercial kitchen, like we said, that's another one that really grew. There's dedicated areas for dry storage, freezers, gander closets, all the necessary functions that can really make that commercial kitchen run. And then we've also put together a comparative program slide. So also again, the more grayed out colors are what is currently in the existing senior center. And you can see with the, more bold colors, what would be in the proposed. So you can see that the common use space is more than double, right? These are kind of the big meat spaces of the senior center where socialization happens, people go to classes. You can see that the staff and storage building services stay about the same. In fact, because they're all in one building and have more dedicated spaces, we're able to make them a little bit more efficient. And then you can also see the commercial kitchen more than doubles. And so a few items we just wanted to kind of clarify that might not be so obvious from the matrix with all the text and the numbers is that the storage functions that are related to the commercial kitchen, like those refrigerated spaces, the freezers, the dry storage, those are actually in the commercial kitchen yellow blocks within the space. So we're counting that all within the commercial kitchen square footage. Another thing is that because we know storage is so important, that the building services, the storage that's currently housed in the basement now has specific rooms throughout the facility. So it makes it a little bit easier to, allot storage to the different programs that are happening. And now I'm going to pass it to Carol.
So based on the program, and one way to think about it is to think about actually what the program exploration found is a need to expand the dining room size, not so much because of the people who are currently attending the program, but because of the need for enhanced programming, and then the addition of one more program room, which we've been calling it a wellness room, but there's all kinds of things that you could do in a room that size. Essentially, it's a different size than the classrooms you currently have. So it gives you, again, more flexibility in programming. And then the other big piece of the program, the increase in square footage, is a better, more efficient kitchen. So in looking at possibilities, how we could occupy the site, we looked at the program and tried to imagine different ways that it would go together to give you an efficient building. And in this one, what we haven't shown you before is the last time we presented, there were some questions about some aspects of this, like how much exterior skin, relationships, and we've tried to make a really concise summary of that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I know that you've seen these already, but we explored 4 different approaches to putting this program on your new site. The first one we called linear. It consists of 2 linear bars. I'm going to the second. During the discussion, there were a number of people who talked about the idea of a courtyard building, one that would be wrapped around a garden or an activity space. We also talked about doing a small volume. We called it the village. In a lot of ways, it's very similar to your village hall now, or your township hall now. And then the last one we looked at, we called it windmill, but this design is centered on the dining room as the heart of the building. And so just to remind you how we showed those to you, here's linear shown from a bird's eye view. We also explored putting these on different parts of the site to better understand it. We tried to make the schemes equal in terms of their functionality. So they all have a covered drop-off area that would be developed as a welcoming area. This one is courtyard. This one's interesting to explore. This one, we placed it on the high part of the site. So that courtyard looks down into the lower part of the site. And this view is from that lower part. For village, this one is interesting because each function occupies one of these different houses with the possibility to create, again, a courtyard, somewhat different character than the courtyard we showed you before, but a courtyard that connects all the functionality. And then the last one we showed you was windmill. And windmill features a dining room in the center, dining room activity space in the center, kitchen, and then the activities coming off the side. So it has a see-through quality that we were interested in exploring. We're happy to go through any of these in more depth, but since we presented them already, Lena, do you want to go over this analysis?
Yeah, I can do that. What we put together here is just a quick analytics page, just to kind of compare all of the different schemes. So on the left, we have constants, things that we plan on incorporating in all of the schemes, whichever one is chosen. So having similar parking counts, reasonable walking distances, anything from covered drop-off, outdoor cafe experience, and optimal solar orientation. So just because one of the concepts is chosen doesn't mean you're leaving off any of these. It can be tweaked as we move forward into the next phases. And then also we looked at just some preliminary square footages of the footprint, the exterior skin, and the roof areas. We know that that's come up in a lot of topics and a lot of conversations, and this just kind of puts all of those square footages on the same sheet for easy comparison.
And so you can see that there are some variations, but they're not significant at this point. In fact, I'm not even sure that they're cost significant. For example, I want to point out one here in courtyard. It has more exterior skin than the others. That's partly attributable to the siting of that building because we included where it was cantilevered over the lower part of the site as exterior skin. So these are what we want you to do when you talk about these is feel confident that they are in fact equivalent. What we're looking for is we want to make a building that your citizens will be proud of, and we want to extend the use beyond just a dining facility. Although this building will make it do that very, very well, we want to know which design do you think will be most exciting for the people of East Hampton.
And then we also wanted to share a concept evaluation matrix that the design team has created. And so how we see this is sort of a ranking system between the different schemes, but it's based on, the town's goals and the town's, themes that came out during the engagement sessions. So you can see from the key on the upper left that the darker the green, the better that concept is at achieving that goal. The lighter the green, the worse it is. And then there's kind of a neutral in the middle. And so we looked at things like preserving the existing natural assets, not touching the site, views throughout the site, reasonable walking distances, plan efficiency, efficient mechanical, electrical, plumbing distribution, because those things kind of have to do with, end costs and stuff like that, minimizing exterior envelope, and then just a very schematic, available roof area for PV or cost effectiveness to build. And so you can see from this ranking that it's looking like option 1 linear and option 4 windmill are kind of coming out stronger and with a little bit more of those better, darker green squares. That isn't saying that, if option 2 or option 3 weren't chosen, that they could be tweaked depending on which one of those goals on the left become more important to the town.
So do we want to stop? I don't know where we said we were going to stop for discussion. Ronette?
Oh, Ronette, you're on mute.
You're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, there were fire trucks in the background. I think we can just quickly hit the time frame and then go to discussion.
Yeah, and so here, we've been looking at both a design timeline and a potential construction timeline. So you can see around last December at this time is when the project really kicked off and was started. You can see that the community workshops were held, all throughout the summer. During the fall, we really worked on concept design and had various meetings with the board to kind of show progress where we were. And you can see here we are at the end of December 2022. And what we're really hoping to get out of this is a concept chosen at the beginning of 2023. And so the next slide shows the potential construction timeline. So looking at design development being about 12 weeks. Also, there is the northern long-eared bat situation, and we do have to have, soil borings and trees cleared by a certain deadline. Then we're looking at construction documentation being about 16 weeks with an 8-week bid period, and then looking at about a 12-month or a little over a year construction period.
Right. And just to go about the clearing of the site, when we first saw the aerial photos, we thought there was quite a forested site, but in reality, there's really only 10 to 15 trees that are worth saving. Most of the trees are dead, dying, declining, or have other problems associated with them. And as long as we can clear a pathway for the borings by February 28th, we do not have to go for any special permits or any special hoops for the long-eared bat, which is currently hibernating in the ground, so that they're not in the trees at this time.
Okay.
So I think now's a good time for comments, or we have an appendix with more detailed information, but I think you've gotten the gist of it.
Well, thank you very much. So in terms of, I guess I have a couple of questions. I appreciate that you've done the analytics to sort of review the different 4 possible designs as per footprint and exterior skin and roof area. And also you did the same with looking at travel distances, which I think, those are both issues that I had some concerns and questions about. Obviously, the demographic we're seeking to serve, many have mobility issues. So travel distances, that's an important discussion, I think, and consideration in designing a project such as this. So I was curious if you could maybe give a little bit more information about the analytics on the footprint, exterior skin and roof area, because when I look through those numbers, they seem significant to me, but yet you say they're not. Particularly exterior skin on the courtyard was 28,583 square feet. And the linear had the least amount of exterior skin at 12,000. That's, less than half of what the courtyard is.
Yeah.
and-
I'm glad you're
and to me
bringing me
that-
back.
And to me, that seemed like that does relate to expense. And you said that it really does. And I'm curious to see how you explain that, because
Yeah, no, let me explain it more because I don't want to mislead you about that. The reason that this one has more exterior skin is because we've included the underside of the exposed floor, and obviously this lower level has some skin too, and that's the difference between the two, or between the three and this one. When I said I didn't mean that it made no difference. If we decide to build it exactly as it's shown, it will affect the cost. In fact, right now, we're estimating that it is probably within 10% more, but maybe that would be a good number to think about. When I said if this is the one that answers every other question you have or every other desire, we could propose to cite it as a flat building without the cantilever, and then the exterior skin would be comparable. I'm glad you asked me that question because it needs that clarification.
yeah, I guess for me that I'm most concerned about the efficiency of owning and running this building and the cost of constructing it, and how it functions to serve the need. Really, the function for me is really important. So, I'm really interested in hearing about those. And when I first, participated in the presentation that you gave, I was leaning more towards one particular program. And now after having reviewed some of the analytics, to me, another one stands out more than the other three. So it's kind of influenced the way I feel about all four of these, having the ability to look at the travel distances and the efficiencies and what I think will be differences in costs too, based on these numbers of exterior skin and roof area.
And I think to just add on to these things, interior fit out can be just as expensive as the exterior skin. So in terms of construction cost, yes, we are having an energy efficient building. It'll have more insulation and those kinds of issues. But we've done preliminary budget analysis. We're not ready to go into any detail because we're still massaging it. But Carol's right. This is about a 10% over, say, the village scheme, and the linear scheme is maybe 3 or 4% cheaper. So there are some cost savings here and there. One of the things about the site, since there are so few trees that we're saving, and there's a bit of a topography, there's a low point and a high point, we could handle not doing this cantilever and on flat ground just by leveling certain areas. So those are all opportunities in thinking about it.
So the other aspect, other than just the exterior skin footprint roof area, is the travel distances. And I appreciate the way you laid those out, because to me, again, the demographic we're seeking to serve, distances are important. I know here at our own town hall, the distance from the handicap space in the parking lot to the clerk's office, where most people will be doing business here, is it's not an extraordinary distance, but it really presents challenges for a fair number of people who come. And we work to make accommodations for them, but obviously the demographic coming to the senior center is a much higher percentage of those people we seem to have to give assistance to here at Town Hall. You have 4 different, on pages 25 and 26, you have the layout of the 4 different floor plans, and you've measured off the distances, and I think that's really helpful. And when I look at I just basically added up those distances together and came up with averages. Not terribly scientific, but there were some, very large differences. The linear, which I thought originally, from looking at the exterior of the plan, looked like it was going to have the most travel distance issues. And in fact, it has the least, because of the way the interior portions of the building are designed to be consolidated in a way where most of the folks who are coming to the senior center would be having to travel much smaller distances. And they ranged from an average of 68 feet. Again, I added up all the numbers together for that linear design, to a high of 149 feet, which was the courtyard. And I guess because it's a circular building in nature and the way it's laid out, and I guess you probably could reconfigure the way the interior spaces are set up and change the travel distance. But again, that's something that I think we need to take a close look at to try and reduce the number of the distances for travel of those who are participating in programming there.
That's a really interesting observation, because each design intentionally prioritizes a different aspect of the center. And your observation that they could be adjusted to be the same is absolutely correct.
So, and again, in terms of travel distances, I think we need to be cognizant of the travel distance from parking areas, drop-off areas, to the areas which people will want to use as well. So it's not just the interior travel distances we should be mindful of. And I'm sure you've probably already looked at that, or will be looking at that moving forward as you finalize designs. But those are just things that came to my mind. At this point, other folks have comments to make or questions? David or Kathy, Sylvia?
Sure. So I had a conversation, a couple things. I also look at the site plan from I believe your November 15th presentation. Maybe it was the 16th. I apologize. 16th. I had a conversation with John Rooney, who is our superintendent of recreation, also noting that a lot of what has been discussed is for outdoor and indoor wellness on there. I thought it was important to see about the global approach to both town facilities that are there. The one thing, the immediate thing that he had mentioned to me was about the parking on the pole, which would be, a shared parking use that could be there for other elements that are for recreation, meaning the ball fields or other future additions that we had. He was very happy about that. And the reason why we brought it up is because even though this is the main project that's going on, and the largest project in the site here, there's other facilities there that we might want to look at capital for 3 to 5 years out then too, as far as any type of upgrades in advance. I still enjoy looking back at the windmill option on there for multiple reasons. I do think that we can look at not just birding the one property that's been dedicated for this, but potentially shifting some of the parking and also the both buildings or any buildings that go on here more towards the current structures on the other recreational facility on there. That might stay within the topography, less clearing. The reason I say that is because as part of one of your analytics that you have here, is that in the evaluation matrix is that preserving the existing natural assets is one of the lowest for the windmills. But I think all of them could be shifted over, and we can try to cross over the boundary lines, which is allowable on the town projects. I also think that we should continuously look at the massing. I'm not looking for massing to go higher than anything that's been presented, but knowing if there is a cost savings or an area savings in the use of maybe a mechanical or basement storage space there, I would like to further explore that then too. If we did, what's the cost to putting in a basement for some of these elements that you have for storage on here? How can that save or increase views that might be there? Travel distances is exactly correct. Peter was looking at the courtyard on there. It's nearly 3/4 of a football field that an individual will have to walk from the lobby to the dining room. That's just one direction on there. We watch it every day here. You're right, Peter, at Town Hall, individuals coming in. And stating that, that's why I think, I still think from the linear and then also the windmill have the best designs on it. It is a pretty special location. So the skins that are available on there, Peter knows about this better than I do. But energy efficiency is extremely important also. But I think design and functionality and how people interact, how I see the senior center, most people go there currently right now for the dining and nutritional program, and that being the center and the heart. And in the windmill, it sort of is the center and the heart of the programming or social interactions. And then you go on to other activities or other offices. Those are some of just my quick initial thoughts.
So I just wanted to say, I think your analytics are very helpful. And also, the travel distance has been really, really helpful too. And looking at these designs, I think what I'm looking for and not finding in these 4 designs is a relationship to the community character of East Hampton or to the history of East Hampton. So I'm not sure that these buildings tell me that I'm in this special place of East Hampton. I know, the windmill design is probably the one I like the best, but I mean, just calling it windmill, you can't tell it's a windmill unless you're up above. So it doesn't help me understand that I'm in this very special place, East Hampton. Those are my comments. I mean, I know we talked about it, what the outside look would be in your first presentation, where it was, and I'm looking for, I think maybe for something a little more traditional, but that's my viewpoint. And, anyway, those are my comments for now. I think the program itself, the spacing that you have, all of that, the size of the rooms, all of that is really good stuff. And I enjoy looking at the sizes of that these rooms are going to be and how the program's going to operate, and appreciate all of that within this design.
Yeah, and I agree with what Sylvia just said about the sizing, because the sizing is not just good for what's now, but also future uses. This is this project's one of the largest projects that the town's ever done, but also we want this to be, how do we look 30 years out? Where are we supposed to be 30 years? Who's going to be using it in 30 years? And what are the sizes of those spaces? How can it be scaled up? I'm not necessarily looking for it to be scaled down. I'm looking for it to be appropriate for over multiple more generations moving forward.
I'll just add that I also think that the sizing of the rooms and everything is appropriate. I think you pretty much have that spot on, and appreciate the fact that you took the time to actually speak with the community and also the folks that actually work in the existing senior center to understand the needs for the commercial kitchen and that sort of thing. And it seems to me like the allocation of space is appropriate program wise. And really, I just still have questions about how it's all put together.
So
if I could start with commenting, if you could go to page 30, that would be helpful. So talking about program, I mean, I'm very comfortable with a 3,000 square foot dining room. There's a way we could petition it if we're having, we can seat up to 120 people for lunch, or if we want to make that room feel smaller and cozier, we could put up a petition and be able to do that. But as far as the wellness room is concerned, I think what I'd like to see is the wellness room a little bit smaller. At the bottom, you show, like, I guess the most space you need is for floor yoga, and here it shows currently at 2,000 square feet, you'd have 30 students and 1 instructor. I think we found that most instructors are more comfortable with 24 students when you're doing floor yoga. And if we went to 1,700 or 1,750 square feet on the wellness room, we'd still be able to deliver, great programming in that space. And I'd like to see the game room made a little bit larger so that we could have more than 20 people playing cards, because pre-COVID we did have, larger numbers. And I think that would probably make more sense, rather than having all 3 activity rooms being the same size, to have a slightly larger activity room. So go with 3,000 square foot dining room, 1,700 or 1,750 square foot wellness room, and then bump up the game room to like 900 square feet, and then have the media room and the art room be 600. I think it gives us a little bit more play. And then the beauty of having that space for a dining room, it could also serve, as a place for performances. We could have a portable stage. We could have, large town meetings in that space if needed. So I think that makes sense. And that still keeps the space, the building, at 24,000 square feet. I like the way you showed how the program, how you compared the current program with the proposed program, and how where the space is going is in the community spaces and in the commercial kitchen, which we know, all board members, we've served food at a number of different events. We know how tight those quarters are in the current center. And then thinking about the 4 different layouts, Diane Patrizio, Jeremy Samuelson, and I met with, seniors at the center. We met with staff, and we've been, outreaching to the community. And some of the comments that have come back is the fact that folks like the windmill because the dining room was like the crown and the jewel. As you come into the lobby, there you have the dining room, and then you had a wing for activity rooms and public spaces, and a wing for staff, and that was well received. One of the comments about the village, and I know, Carol, you had said that it was inspired when you folks were here back in May and we had the community engagement in town hall, was that it felt a little bit like the different programs were in silos, and that there may be, like my words, less cross-pollination with people coming in for lunch or coming in for wellness or coming in for coffee, that you had, with the village, because it was funny because the parking for that was positive, but the way the space laid out, there was a little bit of, apprehension. It gave us shorter walking distances to programs, because you split up the parking throughout the site. So people could, get to their wellness, get to their dining room for programming, get to the art room. But at the same time, because they had it, there were separate parking areas for the different activities, it felt a little bit like it was in a silo for the, and there would be, like I said, less cross-pollination. And I know that we've also said and that's what makes this so difficult, that some of what we thought were, reasons to eliminate, say, the courtyard, was because the dining room was such a far distance. Well, in actuality, we could flip the layout, right, and make the dining room closer to the lobby so the distances were shorter. So I guess here is where I'd like to call in your expertise. How can you help us make a decision on what is right for us, right for East Hampton, as far as the design is concerned, so that you folks can go and take this plan to the next step?
Okay. Usually we like discussions like this because they give us a more in-depth understanding of what the community wants. But listening to, we are hearing what you want. And I think that going away from this meeting, I have a lot of really important things to think about. But your discussions about distance, I understand that a lot better. The one about character, I understand that a lot better. I would say, listening to you, that you all would like us to explore the windmill one as our developed design and tell you more about parking, more about character, continue to develop distance, make these tweaks to the sizes of the rooms, and start telling you about the building systems. We had a request to look at the basement, possibility of a basement or a rooftop for mechanical. And I think that that's the way I would recommend we proceed.
Folks, I guess I'm asking my
One thing
board
I just
members.
heard there is about rooftop for mechanicals. I know we have the same at the Playhouse right now. And that's difficult for long-term maintenance for town staff. If it's a quick fix, we're finding that right now.
Yeah, we'll come back with the same type of analysis for systems and for exterior, for the components of the building as we did for basic design prototypes. We'll come back with the same sort of analysis. I agree with you.
So one of the questions I have, I guess, about the layout of the windmill that I'm a little concerned about maybe is that you have basically 3 different wings that all intersect at the dining room.
Right.
And so is that going to be disruptive? Does that limit the use of that dining room for other than dining purposes? As we said, that could be used for public performance or lecture or public meeting. And if you have activities that people need to come and go to, and they're intersecting through that central space, is that going to be problematic? I like the idea of the dining room being a focal point for the building, because I think a lot of the current use of the senior center relates to the nutrition program, the socialization in that space. And so I know that's an area that is a highlight for many in terms of their experience. And I think the wellness will be too, but I just had the question about how they intersect there and how you could avoid unnecessary sound interrupting one way or the other.
Could we go to page 26 so we could?
Okay.
Please?
Yep. Yeah, is that a wall between the lobby and the dining room?
Right now it's a division of the square footage, but I think the next thing that what we'll have to answer to you, one of the things we'll have to show you next is how this works as a multi-purpose room.
And again, you have your entrance lobby, so people are coming and going to various places, and it's
Right.
enters immediately into, whereas some of the other designs, the lobby is separated from that space somewhat.
But then if I could just add on to what the supervisor was saying, to try to find that division corridor between, the 3 wings, if you want to call it. If there was a basement and you took the medical supply storage, mechanical room, fire pump, and some of those other aspects of mechanicals that are at the first location from the lobby and put them in a basement, you could shift the dining room further back, and there could be a pathway, open pathway all the way through. That might be a trade-off. I'm just
that's a good point, David, because then you have, as you said, you move the dining room back, so it's not in the cross path of wellness and the offices and the lobby.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes,
So-
we can develop those ideas for you and give you a recommendation and more alternatives.
So I understand you still have a lot of flexibility in how you
Hmm.
design any one of these footprints, if you will, in terms of how you ship things around and adjust them. And, I've heard Sylvia comment about trying to keep the design in somewhat of a East Hampton vernacular, and that you have a sense of place to some degree. And I think, that's important to a degree, but I think overarching, we need to have a design that is, it just feels right when you see it, that, it is calm. It doesn't have to be ye old senior center necessarily.
That's true.
As we have the ye old town hall here that we're meeting in, which is basically a post and beam barn, shingle style, but it's connected with a modern glass atrium. And, that
No, I enjoy it.
that's a nice mix.
Yep.
Kind of reminds me of when they built the glass pyramid at the Louvre, and historic vernacular, but the two complement each other. So I think that's important to have a design that the community can be very proud of. And I know you're certainly capable of doing that, and we just need to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we were avoiding a 2-story or a basement solution is that we then have to introduce stairs and a lift and other items to make it usable for community center storage. Putting the mechanical systems in the basement, I think, is one thing we've talked about and is a good suggestion. But it just adds more program elements to the building.
So
as well.
you talked about the change in topography and how that affected the courtyard, and you were taking advantage of that. Is it possible to take advantage of that same topography at that low end and have that drive out or walk out type basement, and then the rest of the structure on one level above?
Yeah, we had looked at that, and we've had preliminary meetings with our mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer, and that one had a very nice sort of tidy place to put the mechanical systems. And in our parking studies, any of the schemes can have the parking is flexible enough. One of our schemes had parking near each area. Well, we can still look at that in all of the schemes as well.
So can I so are board members comfortable?
I'm so sorry, Kathy. I apologize. So just one more thing. So bathrooms to wellness areas, wellness rooms, I think also should be looked at too. I know we have the dining areas, but we should also look at travel times from bathrooms to wellness areas. I know that very well. Once your body gets moving, things adjust. And sometimes you want to be closer to that during those type of physical activities and movements. Even if it's a half bath or I don't know if we can even do that. It's just a thought to think of also.
It's a good point, David.
Yeah,
Suggestion.
I think that is a good
Again,
suggestion.
with the demographic we're dealing with particularly.
Yeah, and I think even though the toilets that are close to the dining room, you could say could be used by wellness, you still have to go through all the tables and chairs kind of thing. I think it needs to be on that wing.
When you got to go, you got to go.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, is everyone on the board comfortable with moving forward with the windmill design?
I personally am. I think the windmill design is more just for the look of it. I don't think it's the vernacular Sylvia was saying, and I agree with Sylvia's comments. I think the layout is good. I think it can be just cited a little bit differently if we adjust potentially the parking on the site and maybe looking to crossing over or using other town property that we have next door. That still allows for expansion of those, areas for other alternative uses, but think there's ways to encapsulate the environment on there and increase that that aspect of your matrix.
Ronette, I know you walked the property the other day for a couple of hours. And is there a drop off between this site and the back of that Butler building where Sport Time is, the hockey rink?
Yes, and I actually spoke with McLean about the properties as well, the engineer that we're looking at for the septic systems. And I'd say there's a 15 to 20 foot drop between the back of the hockey soccer, the Butler building that's there. Behind that would be a great way to have an alternative entry or exit from the site, maybe for deliveries, whatever. And it's about a 15 to 20 foot drop there. As you come up the flagpole, it goes from same elevation to that rise of 15 feet. And along that flagpole, there's a series of very beautiful cherry trees that we'd want to save. Within the site, there are these low parts down by the railroad tracks. They're very low. They're sort of like a bowl. And at the high point, I could see us lowering some of that height, and spreading it around, because there's not a lot to be saved there. And partly because the trees have never been trimmed. They've never been taken care of. They're all fighting for sunlight in the canopy of the trees. So I think we could do some moving around. He also warned that the site for the ball field had been a dumping ground. So he said during construction, they came up with, they encountered some sort of dump area. And we know on our site, there was a horse burial area. We haven't identified it yet, where they dug a big hole and put the horses in. So we're still studying how to deal with the property. And in fact, on all of these schemes, for instance, on the village scheme, the dining room is in that corner because we wanted to take advantage of the views of all the trees. But if all the trees are gone, we might want to reconsider. Well, not all the trees, but most of the trees. And Diane came with me, and I would be more than happy to walk the site with anyone on the board who would like to see it for themselves, because it is a different experience than looking at site plans. So
understood. Yeah.
If that would be helpful.
Might be helpful to take a field trip.
I'll lead it.
So David's good moving forward with the windmill. Sylvia and Peter, are we making, a decision on which scheme to pursue at this point?
I mean, for me, I think several of the designs could work out. I think we're just so early in the process that it's really hard to say. I think I could be okay with pursuing the windmill plan. There are certainly things that I think we would have to work on. Again, I think that dining area being at the center, the hub of the spokes, can have some problems in terms of interruptions and just traffic flow. I know it's a focal point, but it's also attached to the lobby in a way. In this presentation, that I like David's idea of being able to shift it back so it's not at the hub, but easy to access.
Maybe it would be helpful if we had people's top 2 or top 3 choices, Yeah,
I mean, what's interesting, why the windmill works also for, say, our 12-step programs, is that they, it's
it's limited to, or if we were doing an event after, after hours, of the senior center hours and having some kind of performance or a special meeting, it's easy to close off the other areas. And by having the wing, the wing, the way it's constructed and the lobby, I guess for me, I never thought about there being an issue, because I look at the dining room as having a wall and so that it's off the lobby. And I would imagine you could insulate the wall so that there wasn't, a lot of sound that could escape, and that it was two separate spaces. But that was just how I interpreted it.
I mean, if you want to rank, have each of us rank in order the 4 choices, which we prefer the most. My top 2 are linear and windmill. I think linear gives an opportunity to, and mimics really kind of a potato barn, but
Yeah.
It's more, it seems to be much more efficient to me. And again, we still have the opportunity to shift spaces around. So it's just based on what's been presented. I think that would be my first choice, and windmill second. But again, how it's arranged changes everything. They're pretty similar in terms of footprint and exterior skin. Again, that was a concern for me because I do think it translates to cost and maintenance. Those are cost and maintenance are really important to me in the actual function of how it works, obviously.
It's interesting that you say linear, because that was the top choice of the human services staff. But it was funny because when it was first presented in November, I remember you doing calculations and saying, "Oh my God, that's the length of 2 football fields." And
right. But the way the interior spaces are arranged, it completely reversed, and the travel distances were the least. And it's more consolidated really than any of the other programs here.
Yeah.
And I think that, I just think that translates to lower costs and more efficiencies. But again, windmill, I think you can work with the way the spaces are divided up and come up with an acceptable, and a great plan there too.
Sylvia, did you rank them? Could you rank them?
I could. I think what it's going to change it for me, or what it's going to be part of it, the windmill, I kind of like the separation of having spokes, if you want to call it that. But I'm not sure how much light there's going to be. It doesn't seem to be the one that's going to produce the, yeah, I'm not sure. You've got a whole corridor of windows, but I don't see where it's going to function within for the wellness, that one corridor going towards the wellness room. And then the light that would be in the dining area, it seems like you're looking at 2 big walls perhaps, and not, the one that where the commercial kitchen is, that's just going to be a straight wall there. And then if you divide it, you'd have another wall on the opposite side. I'm concerned about light in that one. But also concerned about it with the linear too. Those are the 2 that I think would work.
Windmill and linear.
Correct.
David, do you have ranking?
Yeah, I'll just tell you what I don't like. I don't think the village and the courtyard are appropriate. I think this has to be a meeting point. We've gone through COVID, and individuals of a certain age or a certain personality, this is supposed to be a social setting. So to have that convergent of individuals coming in for different things is nice to have that central meeting hub in the organic area in the windmill. The linear is a little bit more modular as far as the programming and how everything's set up here. It doesn't seem you would have that interaction, or what you call it, cross-pollination maybe, as much. I like the look of the potato barn, I do, but I think the windmill allows for that type of social interaction. Now, if we were to maybe, and again, my job's only to tell you my opinions on here, but if you were to take the dining room and switch it with the lockers and the other things.
Are you looking at linear right now, David?
No, I'm looking at, sorry, I'm trying to look through a magnifying glass is what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Sorry. If you take the area on the windmill, let's say you take the area of the lockers, or let's say on the left side of the building there on that spoke, if you wanted to call it,
Yeah.
and made that whole area the dining room, you wouldn't have as much interaction potentially, and you would have a lot more viewing area into the natural environment.
Yeah.
I would play with that aspect of the spoke a little bit more, particularly if you're able to incorporate a basement for mechanicals. But I think the organic nature of socialization is very important for people to just run in and say, "Hey, Peter, how you doing? Nice to see you." Instead of going to one room or just
Right.
the other room, like just to run into each other organically. It's nice to start conversations about everyone's day and their family and stuff like that.
Right. Which is why we've got the lobby now, which is, like 1,000 square feet and it's like the size of, the town hall meeting room, because right now when you walk into the senior center, you walk into the dining room, and that lobby is supposed to be that homey place where you could grab a cup of coffee and meet a friend, whether just to meet up there or to, before or after a class or a lecture or, bridge. And that was, critical.
No, so I think that's a cornerstone of the design. I agree with that.
Yeah. So it sounds like where the board is coming out is that folks like Windmill and Linear, those are the two contenders, so to speak.
What about you, Kathy?
I it's funny. I like Windmill was my first choice, and until I saw the travel distances for Linear, I don't know why I didn't. My brain processed it differently, and now that I see it like laid out this way, Linear makes a lot of sense. I know it makes a lot of sense as far as trying to get to net zero because of the way we can put the solar panels and take advantage of the light. I get, Sylvia, what you're saying about not as much light possibly in the dining room because of in the windmill layout, but I'm not trying to be art direct this or anything, but if you did change the rotation of the dining room and had it along where it says 109.9 and it ran perpendicular instead of parallel to the lobby, you might be able to get more more light and more exposure. And then I also think that it was interesting when I looked at the Linear design, it seemed like it had more outdoor space, but I think it was because of the illustrations that were included with each design. They just happen to highlight an outdoor like seating area, dining area, where it was in the other plans, but it wasn't, in the forefront. So to me, having outdoor space and where people can sit and meet and congregate is important too. And I know where that goes in Linear. For example, they show it off the dining room and they show it off the wellness room. I'm not sure how it functions in the Windmill, where that outdoor space is.
So I think the orientation and in the presentation today, the materials don't show the north-south orientation or the overall site plan. And I unfortunately didn't bring mine with me from the previous meeting, but I think that obviously is an important consideration as well. As you said, Kathy, the Linear, I think, was oriented so that you could take advantage of solar, which is something I know that we want to do. I'm not sure how solar would be incorporated on the windmill. visually how that would change the building as well. And I see, yeah, that definitely the linear would take advantage of that. I mean, for me, that style is, I know you have a salt box styled roof on it, but it's very similar to potato barns. And I think, you know, an homage somewhat to potato barns might not be a bad thing. Obviously, more windows than a potato barn would have. And you have an opportunity to take in the outside view. Again, it's compact and efficient. Not sure how, I mean, and you can obviously change the exterior elevations on the windmill too and put windows.
I mean, there may be enough glass in that. I'm just not, I can't quite tell through the illustrations. And I can't tell, is that a clear story up on top of the roof? On the windmill, this whole.
Yeah, it's
structure.
bumped
Is that a
up.
clear story that might give it enough light. I just, it's a little harder to tell.
Carol, can you tell us what the bump up in the roof of the windmill represents? Is that clear story windows or?
That was our intention, that we would look at mechanical and clear story.
Okay.
I see. Okay. And then how would you incorporate solar into
Yeah.
the design like that without
Well,
changing?
we've talked about this extensively. We've talked about possibly building a solar array not on this site or separate from the building. And I think that would be one of the things that we'd have to look at. We also looked at the amount that we could put on the building. And the schemes were approximately equal when it came to loading solar on them. But we owe you more study about that. And it's at the top of our list.
Okay.
I mean, in that respect, I think the linear just lends itself more naturally, especially how you have it sited on the plan. It's facing due south. The long side of those salt box roof sections are oriented in such a way, and I'm sure you probably can maximize the efficiency of solar on that roof simply by adjusting the pitch of that back portion, the southerly portion. So I think that's a big advantage, having a standalone solar rather than using the opportunity to actually structurally mount it onto the building is a lot more expensive. You have to have a steel framework established for the solar if it's going to be on site but separate. Again, another added expense. And visually, I think it just blends in really nicely on that linear design. You wouldn't even see it as you approach the building necessarily. I guess that's another reason why I favor the linear design. But with windmill being a second choice. The other two designs to me just have too much in the way of the corridor space and travel distance, as Kathy said, and obviously more skin area if you have a big opening in the center of the agglomeration of buildings. A lot more surface area.
So where do we go from here?
To the drawing boards.
We were hoping to get down to one scheme at this point.
Yeah, I understand. That would be nice to be able to do that.
Kathy, have you talked to Kate and some of her thoughts on this?
I don't have her input. No,
I think, again, I think those considerations that were at the top of our list, obviously providing the programming, I think we all agreed that the square footages and the spaces on all the plans are appropriate. Travel distances are important. Being net zero or as close to net zero as possible is important. Being able to incorporate solar onto the roofs, very important.
Peter, what do you think though, if we just made the wellness room a scooch smaller so that we can make the game room a little bit bigger?
I didn't really have any comments on that wellness versus game room.
Because I know Sylvia brought that up back in the last presentation, that maybe the game room should be a little bit bigger, and rather than add to square footage, I think, you know, the difference between, say, a 1,700 square foot fitness room and a 2,000 square foot fitness room.
I mean, I think 1,700 square foot wellness room is fine.
Great.
I don't.
I'd go with that, Kathy, and thank you for picking up on that.
And, you know, those two designs, they're immediately adjacent anyway, aren't they? Yeah. So that's a really easy thing to tweak on either design.
We flip a coin?
Where do we stand in terms of
flip a
parking spaces, windmill versus linear? Number of spaces comparable in terms of close proximity?
We had Eric Shantz take a look at what the requirement, how many parking spaces we should have, and also consider the fact, you know, how many employees we have in human services and the vehicles that we have. And we were proposing 120 parking spaces for this project.
I'm just trying to, I understand that. See, it looks like you have 60 spaces for the windmill close. And do you have the same on the other?
Once again, the parking were to give different concepts, but they can be worked to whatever scheme that we're doing.
Okay. So that's not.
Yep.
Yeah. And
That's
at
not really
our
a
next,
consideration.
our next presentation, we'll do a similar analysis.
Yeah, I think if you want to characterize the difference between the two, and you've talked about it a number of times, so I think it's coming across. The difference between the two is the idea of the central dining room, as that being the dominant space. In linear, it's actually more, I think it'll be a pleasant experience. So don't take my word using the idea of a corridor, but that would be the light-filled space, you know, that would connect all these. And I think they just feel different when you arrive, and they feel differently when you're in them. But I think they both meet your program requirements.
Mm-hmm.
You could also, on the linear, you said you could move the spaces around a little bit. You could
Yes,
slide
I can.
the dining room to line up with the lobby, so it's more central. And then
Right, but
with
it'll
arts
still
and
be,
crafts one side, wellness the other.
yeah, it'll still be dominated by this linear circulation, which could be very pleasant.
Mm-hmm. So when you walk into the lobby on the linear, you're gonna be looking, I guess, at a door for the table and chair storage. Is there any way to?
Yeah, I hate that. I'm going to move that.
Well, I don't know if you would. You'd be looking at a wall. The door, I think, would be inside the dining room. That's where you'd open the door to.
I guess that's one thing it's a little hard to tell from these floor plans. Is the idea that on the windmill, that when you come in the lobby, that it's the lobby and the dining room are all just one big open space, or is there a wall there?
I think there's a wall there. I'd like to explore it a bit more. In fact, I think maybe the cafe would move over and be that dividing element.
Mm-hmm.
Or have they done in other locations, restaurants, you know, rolling partitions? Just adaptability. Do you mind if I ask? We have Diane Patrizio here. Do you mind if you come up and just give our thoughts about staff? I know you've been participating in these conversations. We're sort of down at these two here. You know, sorry to put you on the spot here, Diane. You're sitting there
She
quietly.
looks like you put her on the spot. She's just not happy.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Upcoming.
Well, not
Kind
quite.
of coming, but good.
I mean, we've all been involved in the discussions. Kathy's been there. You know, I'm not usually with the crowd, so I like the courtyard. What can I say? I really love that design. I like the idea of a central outdoor place that we could use. We really talked about that.
What about to the linear or to the windmill designs on there? See any positives or negatives on them? As you see,
Yeah, I
as far
mean,
as functionality of the user groups and staff.
Yeah, as Kathy said, the seniors that use the building really loved the windmill. They really liked the idea of the dining room, being close by when they came in. Everybody's really excited about a cafe. So, the idea of walking into a cafe is a great idea. A lot of the nutrition staff liked the whole linear design. Everybody had different opinions. I can't say that the village came up too often.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Kate just texted me and her first choice is linear. And her second choice is windmill.
So I think part of what we're struggling with is the fact that the interior spaces, I mean, they can still be adjusted to alleviate any concerns we have, and they can be tweaked and whatnot. So for me, it goes back to, well, which one can really accommodate solar? Because I think that has to be really a major consideration. Meeting our net zero and meeting our stated goals of dealing with the climate crisis, and to incorporate solar in all new buildings wherever possible. And we have an opportunity here to just design this in from the start.
And right now, I'm sort of crossing hairs here. So let me be honest. Anything is better than what we have for our seniors,
Well,
and our residents right now.
Yeah,
So,
but I don't think we should settle for.
no. I mean, it's so when we start looking at both of these, it's I'm going to rely on to what the people want and the professionals want and what they can bring up. So I'm pretty comfortable moving with either one of these. I don't need to be at a standstill here. What I want to really do is I want to get the shovel in the ground and end of next year.
Right.
So whatever you need to do to get that from us, let us know, and we'll get that time frame. That to me is my main.
I think we're all really excited about this. Finally, we finally gotten the piece of property that we could build this on. That took several years. We're now at a point where we have an excellent architectural firm that's leading us through this discussion, and we're getting very close now. And I think we're all really excited to replace the existing facility which we have, which is parts of that building I think are over 100 years old. And really, the program is such an integral, important part of what we do as town government, and we have such a great program and staff, and I think people really appreciate it. We want to really move that program into a facility that reflects our values about our seniors and about our community. And I think this is a great opportunity. So, I mean, I could be convinced either way. My first choice would be linear, I think, at this point. And
could I request this of Kathy? And I know the design team is really ready to go. Could you incorporate some of these changes, and then we can sit here with a full board in person? Is that taking too much time? If we did this first week in January, and
If you narrowed it to 2.
yeah, narrow the two, adjust some of these things of opportunities that we've discussed, talk about the solar, and then by that January 10th, we'll have a firm decision then.
maybe just give us a few more optional interior layouts.
Yes, right now, these are just programming blocks. They actually aren't a
Right.
floor plan. And just so everyone understands, we have been consulting with our sustainability consultant, and we need 13,000 square feet of solar, and we can achieve that on both those schemes. So I don't think that would be a driver for selection.
Okay. So how can you just explain how you incorporate that on the windmill roof? I mean, is that up on angled roof lattice or?
Well, if you look at the linear scheme, first of all, most of the solar would be on the southern
Right.
bar, so to speak. And on the windmill scheme, it's probably going to be more on two of the spokes, you know. So we still have to play with all that, but we know what we need and we feel we can incorporate that into the design.
Okay. So that's going to change visually how the windmill looks though, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it might be helpful for us to just see just how that might look on the
Taking it to the next step.
Yeah.
and then you know, seeing how the program blocks lay out in different scenarios might be really helpful as well. I mean, I'm sure you could take either one of these and build a fabulous building.
Could we put the conceptual plans on the exterior skin coverings? That would be something that's harmonious to the vernacular that Sylvia was talking about. If it was like a shingled aspect, or Sylvia, would that be helpful also? Or
I
know they had some.
Yeah, it's not number one on my list to put shingles up. I wasn't crazy about the corrugated steel, but
it's not corrugated.
Or steel. Okay.
It's just sort of a red flat. It has a red tintish, and we wouldn't do the whole building like that. So
Yeah.
I think those are good comments, and I think we have enough to incorporate this and make it a little clearer for you.
Okay.
So I know that we're all anxious to get this moving as fast as we can, but I think, you know, taking the time at the beginning to really hone in on the important aspects and of design and how it all comes together pays dividends. And
yeah, and to be honest, I know Kathy's with us. I know Kate's listening. I respect her voice. Be nice just to, you know, this is a good conversation to have her with us too.
Right. I think this has been very productive.
Does the 10th delay this too much to the design team? If we did January 10th?
Would you be able to come back January 10th with some of those incorporated comments?
For the two designs you're talking, for windmill and linear.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that works, Renette.
It works for me if it works for your office.
Yep. We're on it.
And I know I've been on the property in the past, but I would enjoy a trip out there with a member of the design team, you know, see things.
Field trip might be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very informative. And it's a good time.
Yes.
So I have no time before the holidays, but maybe unless you guys want to do it on the weekend.
I'm not sure any of us have any time before the holidays.
Yeah.
At this point. So maybe early in the new year.
Yeah, just email us your time frame.
Yeah. Is a weekend off the table?
No,
No.
not for me.
Okay,
Same
great.
as every other day.
So I will give I'll go through Kathy and do a couple of options. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all you've done here and look forward to meeting with you again.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, and that brings us up to Living Shoreline Project Grant Award, and we have Samantha Klein. We bring down the screen
Thank you,
share.
everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. We'll give Samantha just a moment to pull up her presentation. As the board knows, and probably at this point, members of the public, having there been a recent story, we've received a $350,000 grant. And Samantha, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this is kind of the first project to come from our coastal assessment resiliency plan, which the town board adopted on September 1st of this year. That had a lot of community and regional support. So we're entering this kind of sequel to that, of where we're focusing on implementation of projects and plans that help our community be a safe, sustainable, economically prosperous place while making sure we're preserving the natural features here. So Living Shorelines is a resilience strategy identified in CARP specifically for lakes, ponds, and harbors. Preliminarily, we've selected 2 locations that are in focus areas identified as facing high risk to coastal challenges like flooding, erosion, sea level rise, and impacts from storms. This project aims to reduce vulnerability of destructive flooding with a natural and soft solution while enhancing coastal habitats. This is a first phase for living shoreline development, so just the site assessment and design, and then that will leave us with a shovel-ready project for the actual installation of these living shorelines. Okay. So our CARP committee brainstormed several project ideas that we were interested in advancing. And then we saw the NIFWIF grant opportunity. And so we met with a representative from their organization to kind of cross-check what CARP-inspired projects we wanted to see happen, but what also met their organization's values and goals that would be most competitive for them to potentially fund. Living Shorelines was the clear winner of what would be a good proposal for this particular opportunity because of the emphasis that NIFWIF's organization puts on projects having multiple benefits of reducing flooding and erosion while also improving habitats at the same time. So NOAA and NIFWIF are national environmental organizations, so this was a pretty competitive opportunity. They received over 400 applications and ended up awarding less than 100, with Town of East Hampton's proposal being one of those. So being that this is a project coming from CARP and we want to make sure that we have a strong project team to lead this effort. So before any of this was written, we contact concerned citizens of Montauk and the Montauk Chamber of Commerce. Jem Casper Folks, Laura Tuman, Paul Monty, and Leo Daunt. They were all very immediately enthusiastic, supportive, and wanted to be a part of this project. You talk about wanting a strong team. They are definitely it. They have ties to the community and their expertise will be great for this project. And then it was just a matter of knowing that we had a great project, but just needed to break some pencils and sell NIFWIF on it. On the town end, we'll have natural resources, aquaculture, and planning being a part of this. And then the grant is paying for us to be able to hire outside professionals. Our goals with this project hit a few different categories of improving resiliency, fish and wildlife benefits, having a positive community impact and engagement component, and ideally transferability of the project that we can expand or replicate this to some extent. Living shorelines aim to naturally build out the shoreline and to proactively enhance and prevent or reduce erosion. The plantings or structures of shellfish reefs can absorb water and wave energy, which will reduce flooding. They also provide habitat and can overall support local fish and wildlife populations. The designs for living shorelines can include native plantings, core logs, and oyster or mussel reefs. The site assessments will enable us to make an informed decision of the composition, length, and exact location of the living shorelines. We put together some preliminary site locations for this project. In CARP, Fort Pond is noted as having overwash potential for flooding that can impact the Montauk Commercial Center. So we definitely feel a need to do what we can to reduce that flood risk to downtown Montauk. And so this is a soft natural solution for that. We also cited this project location for now because it's on town-owned property. So that will be for ease of the project and for eventual installation of it. Also, as you come into town, there is a floating pavilion, a little trail that leads to it before you get to 7-Eleven. And so we thought that there might be a really cool opportunity here to have a viewing point of the living shoreline and maybe have some educational signage on that pavilion and really have that be a good center for it. But of course, all this is subject to change and details need to be worked out. So So, we're open to conversations on all this. The other project location we've chosen so far is South Lake. There are a ton of remediation efforts that the town is working on in that parking lot to improve the water quality. South Lake was a very popular spot for families to go because of the low wave and wind energy environment of making it safe waters, but it's been closed for a number of years due to water quality concerns. But yeah, the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee is working on a lot of good projects in this area, and we think that this could kind of be a branch out with that remediation effort. So under the grant, we have 18 months to complete this project of site assessment and designs, which will then leave us with that shovel-ready resilience effort. NIFWIF is currently commenting on our proposal and will be sending the town a contract for the $350,000 grant. We're expecting this to be sent to us somewhere around late January, at which point we're able to actually begin on the project. So a first step on that will be going out for requests for proposals to hire a team of engineers and environmental consultants. Our RFP and review committee is the same as our project team. So CCOM, Montauk Chamber, Planning, Barley, myself and Kim. And then these design plans will be reviewed and guided by our project team. And at critical intervals, we want to make sure that we have the community supporting this and a part of the process. So that way we're producing final designs that the community wants to see happen and that also the science is supporting. And then I just put my email and Kim's email up here in case anyone has any follow-up or wants to make sure that they're on the RFP list. But otherwise, I'll open the floor to any comments or questions.
Sam, how long do they think this will be in place, this living shoreline? Does it have a lifespan? Does it?
So I'm not sure of the exact lifespan, but ideally we want to make sure that it's low maintenance once it's installed. Yeah, I met with Barley at a Councilman and Lisa's direction, and he already thinks that there is potential for the town to really take on if there is an oyster reef component in South Lake, that maybe we can get those ourselves and possibly even install them. So that would give a lot of promise to the installation part of all this, but it's good that the town has those resources for once it's in place.
I'm really excited about this project. Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe a little bit of an answer to what Sylvia was saying. If this is to increase shorelines, and particularly the width of that shoreline of that area potential overwash, hopefully it stays in place for a good period of time.
That's what
yeah. So it doesn't be removed unless there's a failure. And obviously part of your application has to define what a failure is, but I appreciate you talking with Barley and, John Dunn in our aquaculture department, because we're seeing more and more of this. And particularly it was making sure we don't want to introduce anything into our ecosystems that will alter our ecosystems if it's different shellfish from different areas or such. So that coordination is great and also shows how much, we've been talking about this in our aquaculture programs for a couple of years now. What's next in it? Kelp, oyster reefs, and the need for, strength in aquaculture department. But first of all, congratulations.
Yeah.
It's pretty stunning. It's great. And particularly, I know moving forward with CARP and how Kate moved it forward so well, get it in there. So to get this application ready in the hopper so quickly on it. So kudos to you, Sam.
Thanks. Yeah.
So there's an area in Northwest Creek inside the boat basin, and on the part of that spit that, 30 years ago, that was all just barren sand, and the Spartina grass had started growing on the edge of it, and the mussels form in that, and that shoreline is actually built up over the last probably 15 years now. And I think that's a perfect, natural model that you could probably duplicate at South Lake with mussels and Spartina, and that's held up really well there. So that's our goal here, obviously, is to build resiliency and reduce erosion and foster the local ecosystem at the same time. So I just want to thank you and the Natural Resources Department. It's a great project, and I know you've put a lot of work into it. We're excited to receive a $350,000 grant for this project. So onward and upward. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Sam.
That brings us up to our last agenda topic for today. which is the 2022 beaches update. And this is our last meeting of the year, and appropriate that we get an update on what happened during the year.
Great. Thank you very much, Supervisor Peter. And thank you very much for assistance here. I'm going to call up Tim Treadwell and John Ryan, if you can assist me on this. And we also have in the audience, Chief Sarlo, if there's any questions. John, will you just join us at the lectern, if you don't mind? As we've done in the past, this is a review of the. Hi. This is a review of the summer of 2022 Town of East Hampton Beach Action Plan and future recommendations. This committee, the mission of the Beach Advisory Group, as you see here, it's initially started here in, I believe it's 2020, in response to COVID, and how the state, federal and the state aspects were putting constraints onto the town that we had to change our typical beach action plan. We thought for better coordination of all these entities that you see on the screen now, we developed a mission statement that we were actually going to be able to put out beach action plans, recommendations to the town board to move us forward through that time of our lives, which we're still in now, but particularly then we are on direction from the state, and how we can adapt and move this type of coordination forward through all these departments. And I think it's worked pretty well so far. Next, you don't mind, Ann? Again, that was the mission we discussed. You've seen that in the past. And we'll go to the next one, Ann, if you don't mind. So one more forward. Thank you. The 2022 Beach Action Plan included recommendations for our town lifeguards for their beach operations. The town lifeguards had their safety protocols. We developed that. We developed beach rules in accordance with to state guidelines, which in 2022, they came back to pre-COVID guidelines. We pre-developed social distancing initiatives for our beaches and public facilities if needed. We did not need to implement those this year. We also pre-developed comfort station operating and custodial protocols, which pretty much were very similar to what we've done the 2 years of COVID. We applied for our beach operating permit and was successful at that, applying for that. And we opened our beaches up in the court in association with that Suffolk County permit. Once again, we coordinated our enforcement efforts between all departments, which was great. And we continued coordination between our agencies and our town departments to carry out the town's 2022 operation plan. We have Chief John Ryan Jr. here, the chief of our East Hampton Town Lifeguards, and he'll go over some of the highlights and successes of our lifeguarding program, and particularly our lifeguards, who are, I have to say, the most spectacular group of lifeguards that we have on the East End, and we should all be very proud of them. And also specifically that the town of East Hampton is a wonderful place for the town lifeguards to be not necessarily trained by John Ryan Jr. and also to be directed by John Ryan Jr. And they all should come work for John Ryan Jr.
We hope so. Second that. Yeah, it was a great summer. There was some unfortunate one tragedy, but regardless, it was a successful summer in East Hampton town. We thank the board for their appreciation of our work. With respects to the beginning of the season, I know it wasn't looked into the end of last season, but the increase in salaries definitely made the lifeguards understand their worth in this town, and the work they do certainly shows that. And I agree, we are a leading agency when it comes to waterproofing this community and the surrounding areas. We do that through lifeguarding, we do it through advisement, education, and the training and certifying of lifeguards in the town, and as well as some other agencies east and west of, west of us. Town of East Hampton this summer employed 109 lifeguards, of which 88 lifeguards and 21 officers. This is our numbers are a little low compared to other years, but regardless, I think our one of the areas it was a little lower on was our high school guards that we normally hire. Based on the increased separation of the groups COVID actually separated everybody, it pushed everybody further east and west on the beaches. But in doing so, hey, it's a little more comfortable walking down the beach, finding a spot and not having to situate yourself in front of in between people. But to safely, effectively maintain the safety of the beachgoers, we definitely use the ATVs to advise the public when conditions changed in the water. We also reverted back to our pre-COVID training and testing program. The one it's got to be good and comes from anything. COVID taught us that we had to be a little more outdoors, and so with our Stillwater certification, we actually implemented rescue tube rescues, which gave us that 6 feet separation, and also paddleboard rescues. And we implemented that at the bay in the actual Stillwater. So instead of our Stillwater being solely trained and certified in a pool, we now train them in the pool as well as actually in the open water at the bays. As far as certifying this year, we certified 28 Stillwater guards and 52 ocean lifeguards in this spring and early summer, and 3 Stillwater and 49 ocean recertified lifeguards later on in the summer when lifeguards have to recertify. Again, those numbers are a little lower than what we normally have. I look at all agents, I think all town agencies and even businesses in the town of East Hampton are short on employment. Hopefully we move past that and we can get that employment to increase. But lifeguards, this summer we did perform 137 rescues at protected beaches, and there were 15 rescues that were on unprotected beaches. Sadly, we did have a drowning at Ditch Plains on off hours, 7 o'clock at night. It's a tough situation. 3 of the town lifeguards were out surfing and recognized 3 individuals in trouble at Ditch Plains. Responded to that. It was yellow flag, red flag day. They were able to pull the 3 in, but unfortunately, one of them had already, when they're arriving, making the rescue, one had already succumbed to drowning. Look, they brought him in. They handled the situation with contacting EMS, performing CPR, but unfortunately he did not make it. As far as another rescue that happened on the beach was actually not a rescue. It was a witness cardiac arrest on the beach at east of Indian Wells. This individual was riding a beach bike through the area, 100 yards outside the area, actually 50 yards outside the ABA area. He was witnessed to fall by a retired police officer who quickly alerted the lifeguards and started CPR. We brought with us the AED and BVM and continued to do CPR on this individual. For 20 minutes, EMS arrived on the scene. Marine Patrol was there. It was a combination of the Amagansett Beach Association lifeguards, town of East Hampton lifeguards from Indian Wells and Atlantic Avenue. We had all the support, and upon transferring him from the Marine Patrol vehicle into the waiting ambulance, the EMTs reported that they had a heartbeat, and shortly after that, his breathing returned. David Plotkins did show up on the beach 3 weeks later to meet with the lifeguards that were still working. It was an amazing reunion. In addition, he continues to contact me and thanking me. I'm sure he'd love to come and speak at some point, but he's got a second chance on life, and that was credit to all those lifeguards and what they did on that day. The junior lifeguard program is was redesigned to move down towards Atlantic Avenue, where it's a little bit bigger. It was a little concerning because it's a little tight at the down at Atlantic Avenue, but you know what? It was a successful season. All of the juniors in Amagansett, the Amagansett Junior Lifeguard Program took place down at Atlantic Avenue. The Montauk program was a little light in numbers, and we're working on ways of increasing that program, both the Nipper and the junior program. As far as the Nipper program in Amagansett and Montauk, there was a big increase there, and it was just amazing to see how the two programs and how well they educate the younger kids in this community. Our enrollment went up 24%. And then I know it says up there, dangerous marine life. Well, yeah, I guess you could consider that. But look, we love the fact that we can go down to the beach and see the whales breaching, and it's just spectacular sight. The bunker's out there, 300 yards out there, and there's some bigger fish feeding on that bunker. But 300 yards offshore, nobody's really swimming. So as long as they keep their distance, we'll keep ours. We did surveil that area of those concerns when people said, there's sharks and whatnot. We have ATVs, we have jet skis, and we have drones to take a look and make sure that the water is safe. Thank you. And as well as the lifeguard on the stand, he's making sure that that's taken care of. So thank you for a great season. It really was a successful summer.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
We'll go on to the next one. So part of our beach advisor group is Tony Littman and also Valon Mosley. The Parks and Rec recap is that the staff duties reverted back traditional duties pre-COVID. Staffing levels were adequate throughout the season, up and down. A lot of times we don't know what the staffing levels are until the way beginning of the season. So sometimes that's disconcerting. Parks and Recreation is headed by John Rooney. I apologize. We staffed Kirk Park and Atlantic Avenue parking lots for paid parking. We had installation of 88 beach mats at Atlantic Avenue and Indian Wells. We had to remove at Atlantic Avenue because of a beach slope there. The beach actually accreted, which is nice. Alberts, I apologize. The junior lifeguarding program was also successful with adapted location. As we move on to the next department, which was buildings and grounds, that is Anthony Littman and Valon Mosley assisting. There was a large amount of effort displayed in getting the town facilities ready for 2022. As you see at our ocean beaches, we had new beach rules and directional informational signs. They were designed and in place for our ocean lifeguarded beaches and road ends. What we did is, listening to concerns of community members, we just got the sign litter out of the way. We condensed it. Everyone can go down, as I always like to say, eat your bacon, egg, and cheese and look at the ocean, which is great. But all the signage was there for emergency needs. The town smoking ban during lifeguard hours was codified. Thank you very much to the board for doing so, and enforced. Staffing levels were not necessarily adequate for the buildings and grounds this year because of for the increased workload of refuse removal and infrastructure repairs. So we're continuing to work on that.
So David, can you just describe the issue there?
Sure. It's part-time staff laborers for the department. Same thing John was saying, some of the individuals that we would anticipate signing on with the town in advance of the summer season. The workforce pool out here is tight. Everyone has noticed it. We noticed it also.
It's really the seasonal staffing.
Correct.
Was we had a bit of a shortfall in seasonal staffing, and it's the same problem that all the local businesses and whatnot are all facing at this point.
Correct. Luckily, our year-round staff worked a lot of overtime to make sure that the trash cans trash was removed in as quick of a fashion as we could, and also repair any infrastructure needs then too. So they worked harder, but we are constantly hiring. So if you need a job for the summer of 2023, please contact the town of East Hampton. We did have the morning beach runs in Montauk. They were staff implemented. We had our increased custodial staff and bathroom cleanings were at the same levels as we did during COVID. What we did notice, and as we discussed during the summer, there was a large amount of vandalism at our ocean beaches, particularly in our restrooms, specifically Dish Plain and also Maidstone Beach. That made us change our operating hours of the bathrooms. We closed our bathrooms at I think 9 or 10 o'clock at night with the coordination of Buildings and Grounds and East Hampton Town PD and Marine Patrol. Next, I'm going to bring in Tim Treadwell, Chief of our Marine Patrol, to give a recap of our town police department and Marine Patrol recap.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Town Board, for all your support this summer. We had a successful summer. I think most of that is based on great communication, like you mentioned prior, between the lifeguards, the Marine Patrol, the police department, Ocean Rescue, all of the parties involved, parks. I think that had a lot to do with our successful summer. The other thing which was hugely helpful, and I thank the Town Board for it, is the creation of the Administrative Adjudication Bureau. That really allowed us to have more officers out enforcing rather than being stuck doing administrative duties and more paperwork. We did have our hands full this summer on the Marine Patrol, not specifically so much on the ocean beaches, but with a lot of poaching going on in Georgia Pond and issues at Ecker Park. But nonetheless, we did have a presence and a late night presence on the beaches. I think for one of the first years, we issued more summonses for beach driving without a permit than we did for non-compliant beach fires. The compliance rate of the beach fires certainly has seemed to have increased based on the numbers for this year. I believe we've had a lot less complaints about fire debris left on the beach as well. So that seems to have been successful. Other than that, I appreciate our staffing needs are generally adequate, and this season I'm going to have another full-time officer. I appreciate that in the budget. That is going to allow me to continue easily with the later night patrols. That individual, when hired, will be assigned to a later night patrol.
I thank you very much, Tim, for your assistance to your department. And it's been great to work with you. I can make a phone call and you're there, particularly when I get calls or any of us get calls from members of the public. And if we could just go to the next slide. Francis Bach joined us with the town trustees. He stated there's a minimum amount of user interferences or abuses. Fires are the greatest concerns, nighttime fires. Tim said a lot of that was curtailed a little bit this year. They increased the number of kayak racks that they had, and also with a new pump out boat that they received per also some assistance of a grant fund from the town of East Hampton, their greater efficiency and volume. Next, a lot of this is going to be the next two slides. You've seen in the years past, but slowly we keep chipping away at it as a town. As far as parking, we want a continuation of the paid parking at Kirk Park and Atlantic Avenue for 2023. We're looking to put a paid parking kiosk in Montauk at Kirk Park this year that would assist with staffing of that location right now, and get the same results also. That goes to part of our paid parking initiatives that we're looking in Montauk. We did put in new parking and regulations, off-street parking and no parking areas, which increased our sight lines and pedestrian controlled areas. And south of Montauk Highway, that was successful. There's going to be always continued recommendation for a new ocean bathing beach and increased parking. Review of adding another guarded beach in the Nat Peak area, and also we want to remove parking from Montauk Highway as best as possible. Part of that option would be added parking that is recommended by this committee in the right of way of Dolphin Drive. We still recommend, due to the wind process and sand transport into the parking lots, that we keep shoveling it out. We're recommending buying a dedicated sand sweeper for the two districts that can be deployed by staff quickly to move sand over the lines that we know where our parking lines are and out at our 15-minute parking areas. And increase parking at Indian Wells. We want to continue the same request as about removing the sidewalk on the western side and adding a crosswalk so that would allow parking in the grass area there. Last slide here. Recommendations for 2023 out of this committee here is to continue with the beach action plan that was successful in 2022 and increase coordination among agencies. So template 2023 as we did in 2022. Open all bathing locations on the same schedule as in years past. I want to consistently look for other additional locations to deploy ADA beach mats. Continue and development and new coordinated and attractive informational signs that also have QR codes, but this time on our bay beaches right now. Something we'll be looking to do in the first half of the year. We started to get some of our parking areas surveyed and marked by pulling them. Now the wind just blows the sand so much. It really does. So we're going to continue to do that. So it allows our staff to know what our town property is, so we don't cross over that if we have to remove sand for our beach parking areas. We want to continue to review potential adding Wi-Fi connectivity to the public bathing beaches and security cameras that would help with some of the destruction of our infrastructure and our bathroom locations. We want to increase our efforts to use social media for public awareness and outreach, and not just of situational awareness of how our enforcement aspects also of our lifeguards are doing, red flag, green flag, whatever it may be, but also their accomplishments and too, which our lifeguards have a lot of great accomplishments. It is the place that you want to work. We've said this in the past, but test the pack in, pack out, carry in, carry out approach. Do we want to do that at one of our beach and road end locations or one of our bathing beaches on there? It is a big change, but the change should come prior to the season if the board wants to. The committee also wants to continue looking at a dedicated beach manager position as a liaison to the town board, and also continue to search for a unified command location in Montauk where we would be able to put town lifeguards, Marine Patrol, and also East Hampton Town Police Department under one unified controlled new location in the central hamlet of Montauk. There's also a recommendation for to install a book swap station at selected beachheads at the top of the beachheads in the town, like we have outside town hall here. So for the enjoyment of some of the users of the beaches. That's what we have. I want to pretty much say it's been great to work with this committee. I think the coordination that this committee has been able to put together over the last couple of years, hopefully it makes less complaints to all the board members when you hear them too, because coordination sometimes when we do that is the success of the coordination is greater resident enjoyment of our beaches and the safe way to do it. Chief Sarlo, I know you do it great with Tim. The lifeguards are spectacular. It's a wonderful place to work. Your lifeguards are great to go down and talk to. They recognize us when we go to the beach then too. We want to keep making sure that they are the focal point and knowledge base that they do. I feel safe. I feel safe bringing my kids, and so do not just the residents of the town of East Hampton, but all of the tourists that come out here or the users of our beaches then too. Kudos to all of you on this. And please, as we get ready for the 2023 season, we need town lifeguards, and we please contact John Ryan Jr. or our departments. We would love to have you on. And that's our recap of the season, Supervisor.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I want to thank John, Ryan, and Officer Treadwell for the work on the beaches and on the committee and the work that you've put in, David. Obviously we needed to take a look at how we operate our beaches more closely during COVID. And out of that became this committee, which has offered a lot of insight into other ways that we can improve the experience and increase safety on our beaches. So I want to thank you all for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My thanks as well. Take care.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
That concludes our agenda topics for today. We'll go to liaison reports. Kathy, do you have a liaison report for us?
I do, and it's short today. One is I have a resolution on today. I don't know what's showing up on the screen here. I have a resolution on today. It's a request of the East Hampton Housing Authority. They were looking to have a place where they, as a backup, to potentially store modular units that are getting delivered for the 3 Mile Harbor project. And typically we have been using Atlantic Beach as that venue. So this resolution authorizes them to do so as long as they, fill out the proper paperwork, fill out the application for the temporary storage of modular carriers, and follow all of the conditions like their certificate of insurance, a hold harmless agreement. And I've also asked them to put together a sketch of how the units would be laid out in the parking lot. They need to be near the fire hydrant. There's 2 fire hydrants over there, one across on the Amagansett Life Saving Station and one right on the corner near the booth that we talked about at the earlier presentation. And
Kathy, just before you move on, that is basically a backup plan. I think they're
right. Yeah,
currently
they're
currently
ideally
planning on storing these on site, but because the existing fire hydrants on site are not yet charged by Suffolk County Water Authority, there was some concern that they may not be online in time for the arrival of the modular units. And so this is the backup plan. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a backup plan. The units are expected to be delivered on or around December 28th. Katie Casey's been working with Kevin Cooper, code enforcement, and Buzzy Brown in the fire marshal's office. And we have seen some movement by Suffolk County Water Authority, which we hadn't seen. And hopefully, Peter, you had made a phone call to try to
my office reached out and
get them over there, because not only, is it inconvenient, but it's an added expense to have them, brought over to the Atlantic Beach. But if it has to happen, as the backup plan, if we need to do it, people will still be able to, go down to Atlantic Beach and enjoy the beach here in the off season over the holiday. The other thing I wanted to mention is, if you recall, we did a memorializing resolution back in October in support of legislation that was put forth by the Assembly and State Senate. It was called the Puppy Mill Pipeline Bill, and it would prohibit the sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits by retail pet shops, and also would allow retail pet stores to partner with area shelters and rescue facilities to adopt animals. And that was signed by the governor. So that's going into effect in 2024. So that was a great win for folks. And then lastly, I just want to say that our residents should have received their tax bills. They were mailed out a week or so ago, and payments are due by January 10th, 2023. There are 6 ways how people could pay. One is they could go in person to 300 Panago Place, Suite 106. They could pay by mail with a check. And if they are sending it by mail, it's recommended that they use certified mail. They can pay online with a credit card, debit card, or e-check. They can pay by phone with a check or credit card or debit card. They call 631-324-2770. They can go to Dime Bank and pay there with cash or a check, or they could drop off the payment at the Montauk Playhouse and a receipt will be mailed to them. I was hoping, Peter, that we could put this, on social media so that folks understand. Sometimes we put this slip with the different options in the tax bill. That didn't happen this year. So I think the more we can get that out there, the better. I will say that on the town website, the page for the tax receiver's office is up to date and all of this is spelled out there. But I think, it just make it easier for folks so that they know the best way that they can, submit payment of their tax bill.
Yeah, so we're happy to put that out on the social media platforms.
I'll send that to your office, all the details that I just read, if I could.
Great, thank you, Kathy.
And it's also
And that's what I have for
on the
today.
website.
Thank you, Kathy. David?
I want to let everyone know that Suffolk County Suffolk County Shellfish Aquaculture Lease Program in the Peconic Bayland and Gardeners Bay. There's a public meeting notice on there for anyone that's interested in the 2023 application. This public meeting would be held on Wednesday, December 21st at 6 p.m. If you need any more information, please contact Susan Filipowicz at Suffolk County, and they can get that information to you. I also want to let everyone know that the New England Wind Draft EIS is found on BOEM's website. There is a public scoping and public comment period of 60 days that ends on February 21st. This would be for offshore wind energy that'll be coming through and going off of Massachusetts in this one location. Please contact BOEM's website for that. I want to let everyone know that the Montauk Chamber of Commerce, in conjunction with the town of East Hampton, I want to thank the board for your support on this, has been successfully awarded a grant in the amount of $21,588 from Suffolk County of the Economic Development and Planning Downtown Revitalization Round 20 program. The town of East Hampton has never been awarded a grant in this program. So I appreciate the town for assisting. While initially we looked for a greater amount of money, we were successful with that amount of money, and we'll take it. And this will be used for electrical and Wi-Fi upgrades to the Carl Fisher Plaza, electrical and Wi-Fi upgrades to the gazebo at the Carl Fisher Plaza, and also ADA improvements that include ramp rehabilitation and sensory mat installations in that area too. Carl Fisher Plaza, also known as the Circle or the Green, is the heart of the downtown Montauk and serves as a gathering place for community events, including music, celebration, parades, farmers markets, craft fairs, memorials, school field trips, and
Santa's reindeer.
And Santa's reindeer all throughout the year. The Montauk Chamber of Commerce is a project sponsor, also offering matching funds and in-kind services. So congratulations to the Jen folks of the Chamber of Commerce, Town of East Hampton. I want to thank Jen Campbell and also Jeremy Samuelson for your assistance on this project then too. It's only going to help us out here then too. So thank you to all. I want to let the board know that I have started to undertake a Lake Montauk bottomland survey of structures, specifically for docks and also hard structures. I don't know if this has ever been done, but we're looking to do so as we look at some of the commercial leases that have been lagging in Lake Montauk over the years. And we are starting this methodic bottomland survey, and we'll continue to let the board be aware of that as we continue to move that forward. Also, we had a meeting about Lake Montauk stormwater filtration projects, particularly in Westlake, with members of the Natural Resources Department and our engineers, and coming close to some of the final designs that we're going to do there. The turkey trot, we have a resolution on for the turkey trot. The turkey trot this year, I was not there. Peter, how'd you do?
I told you I wasn't going to be there today.
So
out of town for Thanksgiving.
The turkey trot was there.
Just to keep from running in the
exactly. We're about to distribute $4,091, just a little bit over that, to the 4 food pantries, equally Montauk Food Pantry, the East Hampton Food Pantry, the Springs Food Pantry, and East Hampton Meals on Wheels. So thank you to all the participants in the town of East Hampton for assisting with that. I want to let everyone know, go shop local. You still got plenty of time to do that. I was actually in Bookhampton. I found a wonderful book. There's a lot of great journalists in the town of East Hampton, and one of them is Jack Graves. He has a wonderful book out, Essays from Eden. It's his point of view. Jack's a great man out there. A lot of great businesses in all our hamlets, Wainscott, Montauk, Springs, East Hampton. I think Amagansett, let's go shop local as we head up to the holidays. Lastly, I want to let everyone know that Kathy Burke-Gonzalez is a person of honor and then one that I have great respect for. She is a tremendous public servant. If you ever want to go talk to her or know who she is, go call her, 324-3187. She'll love to talk to you. She is dedicated, educated, and has full temperament to talk and deal with anyone. I admire her and her work ethic. She was a liaison to the airport for many years, and I challenge you to go find someone of her quality and that knows all the angles and all the discussion points at the airport and is thought of as highly as she is. She was also a school board member for multiple years, a position that I would never, I don't know if I could be successful at. So congratulations to you. This is what I want to say. And if you need to know who Kathy Burke-Gonzalez is, just give her a call. She is willing to talk to you any day.
Thank you, David. That was a nice little bit there. Sylvia.
Yeah, thank you, David. It's hard to follow that.
We might have to do it again.
Yeah, wait till next week. Just wait a week.
So my liaison report's very short. we had a meeting last Wednesday, the Anti-Bias Task Force. The next diversity show is January the 6th. It is Andrew Visconti is volunteered to be the moderator, and he'll be interviewing Village Police Officer Christian Londano. And Christian is going to talk about his upbringing and experience living in East Hampton. Although born in another country, he had obstacles that he had to face becoming an American citizen and also becoming a police officer. So it should be a very interesting show. On February, which is Black History Month, the East Hampton Library has generously agreed to show the movie Best of Enemies, which is a film about school integration in 1971 in Durham, North Carolina. We have not set the date yet. We're a little, which is nice to know how well used the Baldwin Room at the library is. So it's sort of hard to fit our schedule in with theirs. So we're working on that, and I hope to have a firm date for you next time we meet. And I'd like to wish everybody happy holiday, healthy new year. There have been some great things that have happened this year for the town of East Hampton, some big challenges that have happened this year for the town of East Hampton. And we appreciate everyone's comments, coming to town hall, talking to us, sending emails. All of those things are part of what we do. And we look forward to having another successful year in 2023.
Thank you, Sylvia. So I just have a short report. I just want to remind everybody that once again, COVID is on the resurgence. We've seen that a number of folks in our community are currently suffering from that dreaded scourge, including a number of town staff are out at this point. So again, with the resurgence and everybody being indoors because it's cold and still wanting to get together with others at this holiday season, take some extra precautions to try and stay healthy. One of those would be getting your COVID booster if you haven't already done so. I know that they're available at CVS and other locations. If you want a complete list of area locations, you can go to the town website where we'll have that posted. The positivity rate is 13.5% at our Care One testing center, 110 Stephen Hands Path, where we had the vaccination center. They're testing on Wednesdays and Fridays from 10 to 5 still. And so this last week's number was 13.6. We do have a few more test kits here at Town Hall that we keep in the atrium. If you come in, please limit yourself to 2 test kits. That would be a total of 4 tests in the 2 kits. While supplies last, we're trying to find out whether we'll be able to get some more. Again, these are free and I think they're good through the 10th of January on the expiration dates on them. Also, you can go again on the town website, and you'll find that there are test kits available now, again, from the federal government. I believe it's 4 per household. You can go to their website. There'll be a link on the town website. And that's also wanted to say that I attended along with David Lease last night. Was it last night? No, it was last night already. The menorah lighting at the Hook Mill, and that was presided over by Rabbi Josh Franklin, where he addressed the gatherers there to just remind people what the meaning of Hanukkah is, the historical background, but also the importance of bringing light into a dark world. This time of year, where the days are shortened to their shortest point, which will be on the solstice. I think it's the 21st December this year. Tomorrow's the solstice. That'll be the shortest day, the darkest day of the year. From that point on, we'll be getting more and more light. So, there's an opportunity for each and every one of us to bring more light into the world. And I think that was the message from yesterday, and certainly one that we need to adhere to, I think, and that would make everything much nicer.
I agree.
At this point, there are resolutions to offer.
So I have resolution 2022-1494. It's to set the meeting date for the 2023 organizational meeting, and that'll be Thursday, January 5th, 2023 at 2 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
2022-1495 is the annual maintenance of the town clerk licensing system, Edmunds Gov Tech, Inc. And that is at an annual cost of $2,940.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
2022-1496 is to approve the temporary use of the Atlantic Beach parking lot by the East Hampton Housing Authority for purposes of facilitating affordable housing construction. And as Peter mentioned, this is a backup plan, and that if they were to use the beach parking lot, all associated fees would be waived.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
I'd like to offer resolution 2022-1497. This is a budget modification for cemeteries, bringing $1,000 from landscaping, $2,675 from dental and optics, 2 lines for $3,000 for maintenance, $275 for commissions, and $400 for water.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1498, a budget modification for the highway department, bringing $1,900 from highway striping to the lines for $1,600 for other equipment and $300 for signs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1499 is a budget modification for the parks department, bringing $600 from longevity to the same amount for safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1500 is a budget modifications for the Westlake Comfort Station, bring $18,000 from health insurance to $12,000 for subcontract costs and $6,000 for building and maintenance supplies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1501 is appoint full-time laborer in the highway department, Devin Manser, an hourly rate of $20.36, $42,334 annually, retroactive to December 18th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Welcome, Devin. Resolution 1502 is a budget modification and distribution of the 2022 Turkey Run for Fun net proceeds, distributing $1,022.82 to the 4 food pantries as mentioned before. Sorry, I apologize. We're adding $4,091.31 to revenue line for rec fee programs and adding $4,091.31 to the expenditure line, special events, and then we're distributing as mentioned here.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1501 is a payout upon resignation from Matthew Smith, who was in the highway department. We have a final payment in the amount of $184.96.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1504 is a payout of resignation for Jordan Renos, also from the highway department. Finance office will contact Mr. Renos to request a payment in the amount of $160.75.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1505 is a budget modification for land acquisition, moving $3,000 from taxes and assessments to $3,000 for surveys and appraisals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-1506 is change order number 3 for 54 Tub Oarsman Road. This is acceptable to the prospective buyer of the house. It's under our affordable housing program. And therefore be it resolved that this change order number 3 is at $6,454. And it increases the amount from $175,276.08 to $181,730.08. And it's resolved that the following budget modification for the year 2022 is approved, taking from one budget line $6,454 and increasing another for the same amount. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 1507 is to reimburse John Jelnicki for copying fees. He was using his own credit card for the Seaview at Amagansett Limited et al. Versus trustees, and the amount is $71.87. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-1508 is to retain Andrews Technology HMS Inc.
for Novatime Software 2023. This is to support the finance office time and attendance functions, and coming from two different budget lines, $35,716.80 from the A fund, and from the B fund, $8,929.20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-1509 is to accept proposal for an RFP EH 2022-108. This is Enterprise Permitting and Licensing Software OpenGov. We heard about that today during our work session. And OpenGov was the proposal received, which best met the guidelines, and being in proper form, now therefore it be resolved that we direct the town supervisor to enter into an agreement with OpenGov Inc. for the provision of services consistent with the contractor's response.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1510 is a bond for $865,000 for computer and hardware and software. And I want to add that this line, that this is a type 2 action, and the corresponding secret will be adopted at our next meeting on January 5th. And the reason for that is that due to our staff and planning and town attorney's office being out with illness, unable to prepare at this point. So if we could have it amended to read, please that this type 2 action and the corresponding secret will be adopted at the next meeting, January 5th.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Roll
call.
Roll call, yeah.
Councilmember Burke Gonzalez. Aye. Councilmember Lees.
Aye.
Councilmember Overby.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers. Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1511 is to appoint department head to the East Hampton Town Police Department's Marine Patrol Division, Timothy Treadwell. And he'll be promoted Department Head Harbor Master 3, Marine Patrol Division at an annual salary of $105,000 for a 40-hour work week. And this is effective January 1st, 2023. And also Timothy Treadwell received a payout for his earned compensatory time as a CSEA member. And that is 374.9150 hours at an hourly rate of $43.60 for a total gross payout of $16,348.81. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Congratulations, Chief Treadwell. Resolution 1512 is to accept additional funds, and this is from the Wayne Scott Commercial Center. And that is in the amount of $10,000 to pay for professional fees associated with the review of the environmental impact statement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1513 is to accept bid number EH22-040 Communications Building Roof, Ronald Webb Builder. And the bid of Ronald Webb Builder is hereby accepted for a total cost of $74,994. And that will be split between two different fund lines.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1514 is to change the department and budget account for Emily Bono. She's hereby assigned in full to the finance department with no change in title, schedule, salary paid biweekly. And this is effective January 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1515 is a budget modification. Insurance, this is moving $1,283 from contingency other to insurance in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1516 is also a budget modification. This is for finance, moving $5,200 from health insurance to outside professional in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution
1517 is budget modification for heating expenses, and This is for $1,200 from taking from Social Security and Medicare to heat the line and heat in the same amount of money.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carried.
1518 is a budget modification for the Behan Memorial, bringing $4,350 part-time salaries to the same amount for veteran services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carried. Any other resolutions or matters to bring before the board?
I do not.
This is the last meeting of the year for the East Hampton Town Board. It's a time to bring light to the darkness of winter, taking time to share and enjoy the blessings of our lives with others, a time for giving to those in need and to our charitable organizations that strengthen our community, and make part of your to-do list, giving to our local charities this year. Check in on your friends and neighbors. Remember to spread some holiday cheer and be kind and helpful to others. I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve as your town supervisor, and I look forward to the new year and want to wish each and every one of you a peaceful holiday season and look forward to seeing you in the new year. And I want to especially thank our town staff and my colleagues here on the town board for a very productive year, and appreciate all of your support and cooperation. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll take a motion to go into exec
Motion to
session.
go into exec session. I have CPF and advice of counsel.
Do I have a second?
Personnel. Yeah.
And personnel. Thank you.
And I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Thanks. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll reconvene at 2:53,
What time is it now? It's almost-
2:40, 2:45.
Okay,
That
2:45.
work?
Yep.
Okay, I'll send a link. Thank you
All
very
right.
much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, LTV.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.